Hello, everyone. Welcome to Talk Now Radio. This is your host, Royce the Redneck Radio Man. This show is brought to you by Revolution Radio. These shows are both listener-supported shows. And, your donations help keep us on the air, help keep us censorship-free, and keep us bringing you the truth as we know the truth to be as best to our ability. So today, we're going to be talking to Anthony Sanchez. He's going to be talking about UFO Highway, and he's also going to discuss ghost apps, which is something he's just recently acquired. If I understood him correctly earlier before the show, while he was working on his UFO Highway or his UFO investigation, this is some new app software that he's kind of stumbled onto that he wasn't quite expecting to at the time. So, Anthony, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you for having me on.
Well, I want to thank you for coming back on my show. I haven't really had you on here a whole lot of times. I think this makes like the second time, but that's primarily because I am one busy host.
Well, that's good to hear. That's good to hear, Royce.
I got more guests than I'm keeping up with right now, so I have a hard time getting back to people, real frequently like I'd like to. Mm-hmm. But did I get that understanding correctly on that these ghost apps were something that you kind of stumbled onto by accident while you were doing your UFO research?
Right. Everybody knows me through my book, UFO Highway. I've been researching UFOs and the alien phenomena for a long time. And back at about 2009, 2010 is when I first started developing software utilizing Bluetooth technology. There's a way through C# and to VB.net, or any programming language that works on the .NET platform, to manipulate Bluetooth. And what Bluetooth does is it scans the ISM UHF, which is the Industrial Scientific Medical Ultra-High Frequency range. Now, Bluetooth has a range pretty much of about 30 feet from the epicenter of the radius. So wherever your laptop is and you plug in your Bluetooth adapter or dongle, it has about a 30-foot range that it can reach. But here's the important part about that. I wanted to take my laptop with my Bluetooth and my prototype software up to the perimeter of Area 51. And I wanted to scan radio frequencies using Bluetooth just on a lark, just to see if I would get anything. Mind you, there is no music, there are no voices, because this is outside AM/FM modulation. This is the ultra-high frequency range, which has 79 frequencies. Well, there's 83, but some of them are reserved, so there's 79 scannable frequencies. And my software scans every 500 milliseconds, which is half a second. It'll scan a frequency. Now, I'm not looking for voices. I'm not looking for music. I'm looking for radio disruption. And radio disruption is caused by EMI, or electromagnetic interference.
So where you have radio interference, you also have a ghost, perhaps.
Right. So EMI and RFI, our radio frequency interference, they're one and the same. They're the same exact thing. They're both caused by electromagnetic disturbances, which is radiation that is being outputted by the sun, that's being sent through our atmosphere. It's constantly bombarding our atmosphere. Anyway, radio signals are our way of listening to that bombardment, and very, very strong ones are termed as radio disruption, or EMI, electromagnetic interference, and that's what I'm looking for. So I go to an environment typically where I know something's going to happen when I'm doing this for alien research, trying to see if I could pick up weird signals or whatever. Kind of like Paul Benowitz did, at Kirtland Air Force Base and Coyote Canyon, when he was looking up, when he was trying to see if he could intercept signals from Dulce or whatever. But I'm doing something similar to that. When I go to Area 51, when I go to China Lake, when I go to Edwards Air Force Base, when I go to Bill Air Force Base, just listening. All I'm doing is listening. I realized that there was a potential to take this software and not necessarily change anything, but utilize it in a different platform, like going to a cemetery where I know there's no radio signals, or an abandoned asylum where I know there's going to be no electricity and no radio, and see what my software would pick up on. Because one of the theories that a lot of paranormal researchers have, share, is that in the world of ITC, which is instrumental transcommunication, radio disruption could be a sign of ghostly encounters or spiritual encounter, or where you're encountering spirits, demons, ghosts.
I was about to say demonic as well.
Right. So I even have an app that I'm working on right now, a demonology app. So that'll be coming out soon. But so I started to do that. And I went to the GhostTown.tv event, which was in Santa Paula, California. This is back in 2011. And Bill Murphy from the Sci-Fi Network, he was on the Fact or Fake Paranormal Files. Him and Anita Murphy, his wife, Anita McMillan Murphy, they were throwing this event called Ghost Town. And David Weatherly, who is the author of the Black-Eyed Kids and Black-Eyed Children and The Strange Intruders, he invited me because David's my friend. As a matter of fact, David's the guy I go to Area 51 with. We've been there, I think, like 2 or 3 times already together. So he invited me to Ghost Town, and it was around that time when I had this realization that, oh my God, my software could be used for what these guys are doing. Because I was surrounded by ghost hunters and paranormal researchers and ITC experts. And there was a bunch of ITC experiments going on. And I'm like, I'm sitting on something here, and these guys have no idea about what I'm doing. So I decided, okay, I'm not just going to tell them about my research. I'm actually going to create a ghost box, a computer-based ghost box that actually scans radio signals. But I knew that, instead of just showing them like a little VU meter or some type of like a little graph, it needs to be interactive, because ghost hunters are not just staring at a screen. Ghost hunters are constantly scanning and surveying their environment. They have lots of different equipment that they're paying attention to. So I needed to make a way so that my ghost box could catch their attention if it found something. And a little beeping sound was not enough for me. So what I did is I got 11,000 MP3 files, 11,031 MP3 files, and there are various different sounds from various different audio sources. And I knew that I was working with 79 radio frequencies. So I took the 11,031, I divided that by 79, and I ended up with 139 groups for each frequency. I had 139 MP3 files. So I decided to create what's called a matrix from 0 to, or a column essentially, from 0 to 139. 0 would be my weakest signal, meaning nothing is disrupting the radio signal, that radio frequency. And it would work its way all the way up to 139. So 139 would be your strongest radio signal. So every 500 milliseconds when I'm scanning a radio frequency, if I don't get anything, my computer program is constantly drawing what's called a sine wave. It looks like a letter S turned on its side. So when the sine wave comes back within expected parameters, I know that nothing was disrupting that signal. But if the sine wave is disrupted, if it's all askewed, or if it's really off the charts, something's disrupting it. Now, there's something in Bluetooth technology called RSSI, which is radio strength signal indicator. So I know how strong the radio signal is. So if it's a weak signal, I give it from 0 to 10. If it's a medium signal, I give it from 10 to whatever. Remember, 139 being the strongest, right?
Right.
So when you listen to my ghost box, you'll hear, a bunch of different sounds coming through. But if you start to hear a sound repeat itself over and over, and if it's really loud, that's a radio signal being disrupted. That lets the paranormal investigator go, uh-oh, something's disrupting the ghost box right now. And that's how the ghost box works. They have a scan. You can adjust the scan rate. You can adjust the volume. You can switch back and forth between different audio banks. So if you're getting what's known as ear fatigue, you can get rid of those MP3s and go to a different set of MP3s. And the MP3s can be anything. What I decided to do was, because it's a radio scanner, I actually downloaded raw carrier signals from shortwave radio, and I threw that in there along with some short phrases, some phenoms, which are like ah, ba, ka, la, da, ma, like little snippets of sounds, snippets of words, to make these unique. It's always different, so that when you repeating itself, you found something.
Right.
And that's how the ghost box technologies works. So my first ghost box ever was the SB1. It was a Spirit Box 1. And that one has 4,200 MP3 files. And the reason why I love that one is because I went all out on that one. On the SB1, I decided to allow the user to adjust the pitch, the tempo, the rates. You can switch back and forth between two banks. There's a dark energy mode, a light energy mode, and this was my first attempt, so I really wanted it to not only look cool but to be cool. And what it does is it literally scans from 2.402 to 2.485 gigahertz, which is the range of the ultra high frequency from Bluetooth, and those are that's what it's scanning. So if they go to my website, ghosthunteraapps.com, and they click on, or they highlight over apps, they can just scroll down and click over SB1. They'll see exactly what I'm talking about, the SB1. And that was listen, here was the difference between me and a lot of other people out there. There are other developers of ghost box software, and they're 100% absolutely fake. They don't do anything with advanced mathematics. They don't impart any type of scientific principles. They're not leveraging the intrinsic technology, which is Bluetooth and the .NET framework, or even if it's on Android or iOS, they're not doing any of that. I mean, and a lot of those applications have been found out to be fake. They've been reverse engineered. Their source code was reverse engineered, and sure enough, they're fake. They're just randomly spitting out slivers of audio that are based on nothing. So that gave the paranormal community a black eye. One of the first applications that was discovered to be fake was a big popular one. I'm not going to say the name because I don't want to get in trouble with this person, even though he's a complete jerk. It was Ben Hansen. Ben Hansen from the Sci-Fi Network's Fact or Fake Paranormal Files got this guy's rinky-dink little Android app, tore it apart, exposed the source code, and showed that it was a fake. Unfortunately, this guy has thousands of followers, and they just, despite knowing the fact that they're not getting anything based on science or math, or even radio signals for that matter, they're using a fake app, and it's really sad, and it's given the paranormal community a black eye. There was another guy that I interviewed a long time ago. I'm not going to say his name, but let's just say his business name has something to do with pickles, and the name of his app has to do with the radar for ghost. I didn't mention anybody specifically. I just gave you the hints that you need. His app is a complete joke as well. His radar for ghosts app, that's how I'm going to pronounce it so I don't get in trouble, was completely reverse engineered, and it was proven that it is a fake. He just randomly throws dots up on the radar screen, and the words are being pulled from a little database of like 2,000 words.
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was another guy that gave a black eye to the paranormal community. And I knew that when I was, here I am, like an idiot, before I knew all of that, I was over here developing these complex algorithms and, learning, third-party technologies on how to truly manipulate Bluetooth. I was doing all this stuff thinking, man, I better make sure my stuff is as good as those other two guys who were the most popular guys. And then by the time I was done with my apps and released them, those other two guys were outed as fakes. And I was sitting there all alone thinking, wow, am I the only person that's writing actual scientific applications for the paranormal?
Actually, you might be surprised. I was going to mention, though, before I forgot, that one of your buds is in the chat room listening to you. His name's Danny Jenkins. Jenkins wanted to say hi.
Oh, hey, Danny.
Also, you got me to thinking, I interviewed a guy named Mike Hobart. Mm-hmm. I want to say it was like last year sometime or several months ago, whatever. And he has a Facebook group for these here types of ghost boxes, only they're not based on Bluetooth. They're nothing like yours. But he's been dealing with people that's been, making these ghost boxes for some time. I don't know if you heard of them or not, but he has a group out there on Facebook. I think it's called something like Worldwide Ghost Boxes or something. I've got to find them on here, and I don't know if you want to hook up with them or not, or what you know about them.
Actually, I think I'm a member of that group.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, Worldwide. Hold on here a second. I'm a member of a lot of those groups. Let's see. Radio. I don't know. I know that I'm a member of probably a member of that group because there's believe me, there's a lot of them out there, and see, there's a lot of ghost box makers who are legitimate, like Andrew
Got
Openlander.
it right here. Worldwide Radio Sweep Ghost Box EVP Alliance.
Worldwide.
That's a mouthful, isn't it?
What is it? Worldwide Radio Sweep?
Yeah, Radio Sweep Ghost Box EVP Alliance.
Yeah, I'm
His
a member of that.
name's Michael Holbert, I believe it was. I got his book here on my bookshelf, but I'd have to dig it out amongst all the other books
I used to be a member of that group, but just staring at the members page, I mean, everybody there is my friends. I mean, a lot of those people are my friends, like Larry Bailey, who's known as Scary Larry, and Kang Murray, Jonathan Garraway, Mark Robo Clark, Janet Cassane. All those people are my friends. So what I do is I tend to not join a lot of these groups, Royce, because there's a lot of haters in there. One of the gentlemen that I mentioned to you right now, who's a ghost, who writes fake ghost apps, his group is very, very vocal against me and Steve Huff, who's one of my business partners. And Steve Huff is probably the most recognized worldwide, ITC researcher out there. He's just very popular. He has like over 1 million followers. And the guy is one of my business partners. Well, this other person who wrote a ghost app, for Android, and it's a fake, by the way. It's 100% fake. It's been exposed. That guy hates us. He absolutely is doing some really nefarious things right now. He's a complete idiot. He's a moron. And I don't join groups because of the people that follow him. They'll post pictures of me and Steve Huff, showing that we're dead, or they'll do some really nasty things. They make death threats, and this is all over ghost apps. It's ridiculous, Royce, how passionate these people are about destroying anyone else who's not their guy.
I think because they're trying to make money off from it, and it interferes with their fleecing project. And it only makes sense that if they're out there scamming the public and somebody exposes them that's in the same field, to try to discredit the one that's exposing them, just to cover their own tracks.
Right. When I first came out, the first thing I did was I didn't know who Steve Huff was. Steve Huff and I were not friends when I first came out. And Steve on his own bought my app. Get this. Steve was the second person. My app has since been sold in the thousands, all of my apps. But the very first one was the GB1, which was the Ghostbox 1. That's the one that became extremely popular overnight. I mean, we're talking thousands of downloads. I was actually giving away free downloads initially, and then I realized, oh my God, I could be making a little bit of money here if I just charge people, money for my app, and I could, because, hey, I don't work for free. I quit my job to make these ghost hunter apps, and it was always my intention. It's like, if I'm going to quit my day job and I'm going to start developing these ghost hunter apps for the paranormal community, I think it's fair that the paranormal community, decide whether or not, it's worth buying my apps. So my apps start at $19.99. They're cheap. I mean, they're dirt cheap. And when I put my apps out there, Steve, when I put the GB1, when I put the SED1, the Spirit Box 1, the Q3 meter, my Vox Spirit radar, because I have my own radar app, which is also based on math and science, and radio frequency scanning. When I put my first apps out there, I got a little bit of there was a little bit of traffic. People were starting to spread the word. The paranormal teams are going, oh, what's this? There never was applications for the Windows platform before. There was this one guy who was writing applications for Windows that were so junky that when I installed it on my machine, one, it loaded a virus. Two, I couldn't use my start menu. My start menu was stuck, and I immediately had to reboot machine into safe mode to get that software off of my machine. And I found a Trojan on there. So that was a nightmare scenario. So people realized that I was delivering the first ever Windows-based applications for ITC and paranormal research. Prior to that, everything was on your phone. Everything was on Android, or it was on iOS for the iPad or the iPhone.
Well, that's probably got a lot to do with the fact that these tablets and iPhones are small, they fit in your pocket, they're easy to carry, and
right, and that's why Windows applications were kind of unheard of until now. You see, I owned a Dell Venue 8 Pro, which literally fits in my pocket. It's the same size as an iPad Mini, and it's just slightly larger than my phone. I have an LG G3, and it's just barely bigger than it. So now that Windows, Microsoft folks have finally got wise and said, hey, we can make little tablets just like the other folks. We can make little laptops that weigh only 1 pound, 1.5 pounds. Now ghost hunters have the ability to take their super powerful laptops and tablets out into the field with them and literally fit them in their pockets. So I'm not just making ghost boxes, by the way. I'm making military grade, motion detection scanning, for video and photo stills. I'm also doing an EVP analysis application called EVP Analyzer that can record all the ambient audio in a room that the human ear cannot hear. And then you could play it back. Then you could play it in reverse. You can have a 10-band precision equalizer that you just got to see the apps for yourself. I've gone above and beyond the call of what is expected for paranormal development. And all I've gotten from, 50% of the paranormal community is hate because they don't know who I am. They're a fan of the little crappy fake app that they've always had, and they just want to destroy me for it. And I've been through the ringer, Royce. I have been through the ringer, and I've gone through it. And, one of the big things on Facebook is everybody is always saying, oh, man, I wish I could reach my limit of 5,000 friends. Look, the other day, one of those two guys that I was telling you about was so desperate, he was sending out these messages, everybody tell them about my app and tell them about me so that I can get to my 5,000 limit on Facebook. You know what I did 3 weeks ago, Royce? I blocked and unfriended over 600 people that were related to these haters, that guy and another one in particular. Because and ask me how many flying F's do I give an F about reaching 5,000 friends. I don't care. I'll block another 600 and keep lowering my number just to know that I do not have those haters within my grasp. The paranormal community is very nasty. It is a very hateful, hate-filled community. There are loving, awesome people, but man, there's a lot of people out there who want to take that they want to take that percentage of the positive people within the paranormal and destroy them because, it's very nasty. Coming from the UFO community, Royce, I did the SAC UFO Con, the UFO Paranormal Summit in 2012. Remember, right. I had you on, you were actually on video in front of a whole audience. Remember that?
Yep.
Yeah. Now, at that, when I threw that conference, I had already known how jealous and how hate-filled the UFO community could be. It's like, I had Paula Harris scheduled to speak at my conference, and she wouldn't come because Carrie Cassidy was going to be there. And God forbid Paula Harris sit on the same damn table. Am I allowed to cuss on this network?
No.
All right. Don't worry, I won't. God forbid Paula Harris wouldn't sit on the same damn table with Carrie Cassidy. I couldn't get that airplane ticket refunded. So that was a complete and utter mess. So that's the way this community works. The paranormal community is not that different from the UFO community in the sense that everybody's attacking one another. This person's fake, that person's fake. And it's like, listen, when I call somebody fake, I call them fake because I have the proof. If I don't have the proof, I keep my mouth shut.
You had this same problem when you first came out with UFO Highway, if I remember correctly, right. And that it was all behind some misunderstanding about Commander X's credentials. And I think you finally straightened it out, but you had to really struggle with them at first, didn't you?
Right. See, what I did was I filed a standard Form 180 to the National Personnel Records Center, and I got a DD-214. Now, I had to obviously sanitize that DD-214 to some extent because I didn't want to out my source. I shared that with another UFO researcher who in turn, who, by the way, befriended me. I didn't know who he was. He befriended me and gained my trust, and we were going to go have steak dinner, and we were going to be friends, and he was going to share my information with all these important contacts that he had. The first thing that the first thing that guy did was go on to Above Top Secret to slam me. And you know what? I don't even care anymore because I'm not in the business of defending myself. This guy went to the Mayfair, I don't know, some federally funded research center. And he's a well-known UFO, well, he's not a well-known UFO researcher, but he just say he's a known UFO researcher. He went to this group that's federally funded and said, here's a DD-214. What can you tell me about it? And they looked at it and they, essentially gave it back to him and said, it's fake. What federally funded organization is going to look at a known UFO researcher and go, oh, yes, Mr. UFO researcher, there are gray aliens working in collusion with the federal government and the military-industrial complex beneath the Mount Archuleta and the Archuleta Mesa. I mean, you really think some federally funded organization is going to say that, Royce?
No, but I can tell you this researcher you're referring to, I know who he is, and I also know he recently posted to Facebook within the last few months that UFOs are all fake and we're not being visited. So he's done a turnaround from his own research.
Oh, I don't know about that, but I'm not talking about Norio Hayakawa, by the way.
Oh, that's how I thought you were talking about.
No, I'm not. No, I'm talking about that moron Frank Warren, the UFO Chronicles website. Yeah, by the way, that's not even my picture of me on his stupid site, the UFO Chronicles. When you go to that website and you see the post with my picture, he totally cropped my face onto the suit body of somebody else. Because he sent me an email, nobody goes onto my website without wearing a suit. I'm like, you're such a doofus. So I'm like, whatever, dude. So, and then, of course, he doesn't allow you to respond or reply to what he puts up there, especially if you're the person in question. So I have no way of letting the people at the UFO Chronicles know that this guy is full of you-know-what, okay? But he put on a little header on there, Anthony Sanchez has been exposed as a fake, and there is no underground base in Dulce, and blah, 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 blah. But shut the hell up, dude. You don't know what you're talking about. You've never even been to Dulce. I've been to the top of the Archuleta Mesa. I've been up Mount Archuleta, okay? I'm the guy that when I came back from Dulce, 2 days after going up, 48 hours after going up to the top of Mount Archuleta Mesa, I'm completely paralyzed from my shoulder to my neck to the top of my head on the left side. And no, it was not Bell's palsy. So I was exposed to some type of, toxin apparently. So, I'm still dealing with that to this day. That's why I don't like being on video. The last video I did was with Carrie Cassidy and Jay Widener, and I looked like a freaking zombie. I mean, I couldn't even, my whole left side of my body from the shoulder up, I couldn't move. So I'm that kind of a researcher. That's what I did. I actually went to Dulce. I actually made friends with the people of Dulce. I went to the Archuleta Mesa. So for him to sit there with this stupid little website and post what he wants to post about me, it's ridiculous because he's never done anything. He's one of those armchair UFO researchers. He's been in his frickin' room the whole time, all these years behind his computer. He's never been to a MUFON meeting. He had never been to a MUFON meeting prior to the one he mysteriously showed up to meet me in Sacramento. The one, Cynthia Siegel, who wrote, who helped me edit parts of my book and, gave a recommendation. Matter of fact, on the cover of UFO Highway, you'll see Cynthia Siegel's name there. Cynthia is a state section director for Sacramento MUFON. Well, she had never seen him before at one of her meetings, and he mysteriously shows up the day that I showed up to meet with her in secret after her meeting had concluded about Dulce and the information that I had. I was directed by various people to meet with somebody from MUFON immediately about the information that I had with regards to Dulce and Colonel X. And I did. And I gave her everything. I showed her everything. And, you know, to her credit, she believed this stuff without, you know, being one of those people that started attacking me. She was skeptical. And you know what? I have nothing with people who are skeptics. But people who are debunkers just to debunk, that's a whole nother ballgame. Norio Hayakawa was very skeptical and still is skeptical to this day. And I've always respected Norio for being skeptical about Dulcie. But what did Norio do? He looked at my information with an open mind. And he said, Anthony, I'm not going to say it's impossible. I'm not going to say, but I will say it's possible. He goes, he just was, you know, he was on the fence with it. And he lent me his help with it. And he said, okay, let's say this is legitimate. You need to speak to this person, that person, and this person, which is why I love Norio Hayakawa so much. He's such a brilliant guy. And, you know, we had, there was like a little break in our, you know, in our Facebook friendship for a while, but, you know, we reconciled and things have come back, and he's a wonderful person. And I hold Norio in the highest regard to this day. I never will not hold him in high regard. He knows that, and everybody that knows me on a personal level knows how much I love the man. So.
Oh, I'm with you about that. I've had him on my show 3 or 4 times now. That's why it took me as a surprise when I saw a posting from him that UFOs ain't real. I don't know if he was trying to be sarcastic behind, you know, people that were, you know, the bad people out in the UFO community give him a hard time, or if something has recently changed his mind, or but the post had kind of surprised me. But I haven't seen that much from him recently.
Yeah, Norio is a conspiratologist. So, you know, he's in the conspiracy game to find the truth. You know, he's not doing this to get famous. I'm not doing this to get famous. I think that anybody who's in this game to make a name for themselves, to become famous, is in it for the wrong reason. I've been invited on TV shows. I've been invited to speak at conferences where I've said no, because I'm busy doing something else with regards to the research. I don't have time to be in front of an audience and take pictures and sign books. And look, my research with regards to Dulcie and to another project called Leonid, which is the low Earth orbit nanosatellite interceptor defense, which is real, is very, very serious. This is serious stuff, and people think this is some kind of a joke. It's not a joke. I actually believe that there is a real alien phenomena amongst us. You know, everybody likes to talk about these breakaway civilizations as a brand new thing. Oh, Richard Dolan wrote a book and is now talking about the breakaway civilizations. Hey, people, they've been here all along. They're called the Anunnaki. Read my book, UFO Highway. Shit, it's for free on the internet everywhere. Everybody keeps stealing it and posting it everywhere as a PDF. I don't care. Go for it. Go steal my book and read it. I implore you to read the book. Read the part called Human Origins. I was talking about this breakaway civilization before anybody else was. And my source, Colonel X, was telling me about the breakaway civilization. So this is not some new phenomena that these, you know, people with fancy radio shows and nice hairdos, you know, who go on coast to coast every once in a while, you know, talking about this stuff. It's not a new phenomena. This stuff has been known for a long time. So
I'll tell you what is kind of new, though, Anthony. I mean, well, it is new, but it isn't new. It's not new that the government has known all along about the Anunnaki and is taking the Anunnaki very seriously.
Right.
But what is new about that is people are just now starting to find out that the government had this interest.
Right. And that the government was, you know, forming treaties with these people, with these aliens. One of the things that most people don't even realize is that the grays that are beneath Dulcie, they're not aliens. They were created by the Anunnaki over 25,000 years ago. Well, they were long before that. They were placed there in the Four Corners area 25,000 years ago. They've existed in the Four Corners area for 25,000 years now. They were sent there to die. They were infected with this disease. They were sent there to die. They're completely on the other side of the planet, right? Because where was the ancient Sumerian and Akkadian civilizations and everything else thriving? All the way on the other side of the planet, between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, where everybody was worshiping the Anunnaki. So the Greys are the Ajiji. They are this creation of the Anunnaki.
I came to that same conclusion myself a few years back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I talked with
the Anunnaki would have been the reptilian.
Right. A lot of people believe that. A lot of people believe that Either symbolically or physically, they would have been the reptilians. I don't know that much about the reptilians. I do know that the Anunnaki, to me, based on the information that I've received and the research that I've done, look, a lot of people, when they hear about the book UFO Highway, they have no idea that there's this completely brilliant section called Human Origins. It's a theory. It's the theory and the research that I've worked on. It's called the human. You know what? It's right here. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna grab it. Give me 1 second.
While he's getting that, I might want to mention real quick like that.
Go for it.
I had been thinking about when I did my research into this is that the Anunnaki might have been the reptilians, not so much that they were physically reptiles, and that's not to rule it out.
Sure.
But it could also be just the fact that their origins is from the planet Draco, which is a reptilian type name. You know, the dragon, the serpent, and all this here serpent type terminology being attached to their race. In other words, could stem from the name of their planet where they originate from.
Right. So here on page 201 of my book is the transformation hypothesis, human origins. This is a whole section that I wrote on, piecing together. This is what I call data synthesization, which means I'm synthesizing data from a lot of other researchers and coupling it with my own research to come up with my own hypothesis. And in this case, the transformation hypothesis of human origins. Where did we come from? That work I was doing over 10 years ago. And it's the basis of that work that got me in contact with Colonel X, because Colonel X had information about these grays that correlated directly to the information that I had pieced together. So listen to this. This is from Dr. Michael Zimmerman from Tulane University. He's a geneticist. He says the premise that within our own solar system there was a race of intelligent beings far older than us who are now gone would certainly force us to rethink lots of questions, including the question of human origin. And that's what I open up my section of my book with. And I delve into religious areas. I delve into scientific areas. I even, focus in on some of the work from Lloyd Pye, who recently passed away, and I'm very sad to hear that.
But before he passed away, he's the one that did a YouTube video that explained that breakoff in human DNA that's been found. That
right.
Evolutionists are using it to claim that their theory is correct, but that this here DNA find does not apply to human evolution. This was something that, if you ask me, I saw both parties' video. What it really does is shows that that's exactly where human DNA was tampered with at some point in time.
Right. If you look at the mitochondrial Eve theory, which states that 250 to 300,000 years ago, all of a sudden humans became upright and highly intelligent and started to emigrate out of Australia out of Africa to other parts of the other areas of the world, that coincides exactly with writings that Zacharias Sitchin. A lot of people believe that he misinterpreted a lot, but I'm one of the ones that believes that he interpreted a lot of it correctly. So Zacharias Sitchin, and then the information that I received from Colonel X, who was a retired United States Air Force colonel who worked on, as part of this classified group. These people are presenting evidence and data that shows that at 250 to 300,000 years ago, humans did not evolve naturally to that state. They were their evolution was accelerated through process of chemical alterations in labs by these Anunnaki. So, how else can you explain, Royce, that we're the only species that has skipped the evolutionary steps, to reach the point where we're now, manipulating, the atom. We are now, peering into the subatomic world. We're developing an integrated circuitry that is advancing every 6 months, doubling and tripling in capacity and in speed. We're just far too intelligent, to be put in the same class with any other species on this planet. So, think about it, Royce. 100 years ago, There were no televisions. There was the burgeoning of radio technology. Electricity was still a brand new phenomena 100 years ago, and 2/3 of the country were still riding horses and buggies.
Yeah, TV had just come out during my days.
Right. So now, I mean, I'm surrounded in my house right now as I'm talking to you. Oh my God, I'm surrounded by some extremely advanced technology. And had you hypothesized any of this, as a future technology to come into existence within 100 years, if you talked about this even 60, 70 years ago, people would have said, I'm not too sure about that. But here it is now. We now have it. Now, in the book, the colonel, says that these grays outlined how the Anunnaki interbred with human species, and they created a line of human females that were type O negative. Because
I knew it.
Right.
I'm sorry to interrupt you on that one, Anthony.
No,
it's just
okay.
that I've done this research for many years myself, as you already know, and I kept thinking that everything led me back to O negative as being the original human blood.
Right.
And that O positive is what was brought in that polluted it. And I base this largely on the fact that you can't put anything into O negative, but yet O negative can go into everything else, in other words.
Right.
And yet I've had so many people argue that O positive would have been the beginning. And I'm like, I know that it has to be O negative. And here you are, one of the first few people to agree with me.
Mm-hmm. So, and they did that. They did that so that they can create a species that will allow them. Because remember, they're humanoids as well. They may be aliens, but they're humanoid aliens. And they did that in order to breed with these females to create subsequent generations of hybrids that would survive, because their species was dying on our planet. They were never meant to come to Earth. They were at Mars, and then something catastrophic happened on Mars, and then they came to Earth. So they had to adjust. They had to adapt. And ultimately, after, 2 generations of failed adaptation, ultimately they decided to interbreed. It was something they did not want to do because they viewed us as such a lesser species. But they did. And now we have a lot of Atra-Hasis, which are descendants of the Anu and the Anunnaki living on this planet. They're the richest people on this planet. Not all of the billionaires are Anunnaki, descendants of Anunnaki. A lot of them are self-made. But there are old, families, and this transcends one type of culture or race on the planet. There are Asians that are Anunnaki. There are Western Europeans and Eastern Europeans that are Anunnaki. There are South Americans that are Anunnaki. And you better believe that there are Anunnaki to this day in the Middle East. And get this. Isn't it funny that the world's richest man, or one of the world's richest men, Carlos Slim Helú, who's from Mexico City, he's like just a mega billionaire. But you know where he traces his bloodlines to? Back to the Middle East. Back to the area of the Tigris and Euphrates. I'm not going to mention this person, but there's this person's name, but there's a well-known abductee, world famous. And this abductee, he speaks on the lecture circuit, and, he's been on television and radio, and he's a friend. He's actually a friend of mine. And he and I were having a private conversation, and I always wondered, about his particular, scenario with regards to what occurred to him. And we were talking about that, but then he stopped the conversation. He looked at me and he says, Anthony, I recently had my blood analyzed. And because you know how you're able to take people's earwax, you're able to take their blood, you're able to find out what their genetic origins are.
Right.
He said he had always believed that he had this Western European lineage, and he does. But beyond that, he was surprised to find out that he also had an ancient lineage, determined through his blood that goes back to
Sumer?
The Middle East, Iraq, modern day Iraq. And this guy does not look like an Iraqi. And he said that was one of the biggest surprises that he had. I don't know his blood type, but I immediately said to him, that is obviously one of the reasons why you were abducted. Has to be. Could not have been accidental.
This guy wouldn't happen to have a book out and be known as the most documented abduction case in the world, would he?
I was asked by this person that I spoke to not mention his name.
Well, I didn't mention a name. I just mentioned it.
Let's just put it this way, Royce. You might be right.
I just kind of had a feeling.
It's possible that he and I have spoken at several conferences together. Look it up. But that was a very important piece of the puzzle to me. And again, I'm not going to say his name, but you probably guessed who it is. But he because he told me that in confidence, and I always promised him that I would never mention his name with it. But it's pretty damn important to not mention. As a UFO researcher, as someone who looks into both the UFO and alien phenomena, listen, I'm an experiencer myself. I have had multiple documented experiences from when I was a child. So this is why I do this. This is why since 1989, when I finally was old enough to tell my mom and dad, hey, I'm going out on my own, got my own place, got my computers, started my own research, because I needed questions. You know, I was in therapy as a child for years, from between the ages of 6 and 14, essentially, because of the experiences that I had with, UFO sightings, abductions. That's very important stuff that happened in my life. And, my mom, to her credit, put me in therapy because of it. Because she loves me and she didn't know what the hell was going on. And
to this day, you're still trying to get all the answers.
I'm still trying to get all the answers. So, and by the way, so all the paranormal stuff that I've been doing, I absolutely love. It's a pleasure and it's a passion of mine. But it's so funny because it's a byproduct of my UFO alien research, because the very first prototype software that I wrote for scanning the ultra-high frequencies was to, it was for when I went to Area 51. It was to listen to see if I could pick up anything, because nobody ever thinks to scan the ultra high frequency. They're always scanning, traditional AM/FM modulation and known frequencies that the camo dudes use over at Area 51. I decided to look at a different part of the spectrum, and I did come away with some weird stuff.
So these different bands, they could be considered the same thing as different phases.
Yeah, I've always been intrigued by the paranormal. When I met David Weatherly, David reminded me, he goes, hey, Anthony, just remember this. Back in the 1970s, when I started doing UFO research and alien research, the mainstream media used to just call it paranormal research. So the paranormal is an umbrella that encompasses everything. UFOs, right. Alien, ghosts, demons, strange lights in the sky. The paranormal encompasses everything. Think of it as an umbrella. So it's not that, surprising that I have my new company, GhostHunterApps.com. So if you guys go to GhostHunterApps.com, you'll see all my programs that I wrote there. And I have thousands of followers now. And, this is so funny, Royce. So I would say 99% of the people that follow me for my apps, they don't even know about my UFO stuff. I don't even advertise UFO Highway at the paranormal site. And this paranormal stuff has taken off like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah, there's been a lot of people out there that's interested in ghosts, even more so, I think, than UFO. I mean, there's websites out there that even put it in their description on their website that there's no UFO research being done. It's strictly paranormal, because they believe that paranormal belongs to ghosts and ghosts alone, which shows their misunderstanding of it, in other words. But it also shows that there does seem to be a favoritism toward it for some reason.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's kind of like a fart in the wind. You don't know which way it's going to go. I mean, listen. I threw the UFO Paranormal Summit in 2012. Right, I'm looking at a poster of it right here. Let me tell you. You were one of my speakers that I had, Royce. You were helping us out, and you did a session with the audience there. But I also had George Norrie from Coast to Coast TM. I had Bill Murphy from Sci-Fi Network, Paul Bradford from Ghost Hunters International, also on the Sci-Fi Network at the time. Norio was one of my speakers. David Weatherly, you know David, you've had him on your show.
Right, I know Norio.
Yep, Mel Fabregas from Veritas Radios. He was the master of ceremonies. And then I had Carrie Cassidy from Project Camelot, who used to be on Revolution Radio, and Jay Widener. With Scotty Roberts, I had Scotty on there with Micah Hanks. And then I even had the Bigfoot guy, you know, the monster of the Boggy Creek, Lyle Blackburn. I had cryptozoologists out there. And then I had an idiot out there named Jeffrey Gonzalez, a complete moron. I'm sorry I ever had him there. And then, but I had Ed. You remember Ed Grimsley?
Yes, I do. As a matter of fact, he tried to get me to interview Ed Grimsley. The problem was we kept missing each other on the schedule.
Yeah, Ed's kind of crazy, but I love Ed. But he was on there, and we also had Michelle Menny. Michelle Menny is, she's very spiritual. Talks about the pyramids and the crystals and all that. But we had a huge conference, man. We talked about aliens, UFOs, ghosts, cryptids, Illuminati, the New World Order, every kind of conspiracy, anything that's unexplainable. That's what we talked about. And, you know, I'm doing it again. I'm going to be having another SAC UFO Con, another UFO Paranormal Summit coming up later this year, probably towards the end of the year.
Well, I thought that conference you had was so cool because I got to be a speaker without having to actually leave my house, which is a good thing because if you remember, I was sick at the time you did it.
let me tell you how important you are. Only 2 people were on video conference in front of hundreds of people. That was you and George Norrie.
Oh, wow. I would have not have ever known that.
You were the only 2 people we did that for. Everybody else, you know, it's made arrangements, hadn't come out there, but because I really wasn't comfortable doing that whole video thing. But George Norrie had 2 conferences going on. He had ours and another one in Chicago, and they had already worked with them. So,
well, I hate to do this to you, Anthony, but there's the break time music. Let's keep this here in thought and remind me when I come back. I got another question to ask you from the chat room. Count wanted to know exactly what your application does. I think you explained it earlier, but he wasn't at the computer at the time.
Okay,
folks. Welcome back, everybody. As you know, my guest today is Anthony Sanchez. We've been talking about UFO Highway, and we're also been talking about his ghost apps, which reminds me that Count had asked in the chat room before we went to break about exactly what is his apps do. We're fixing to get to that here in just a minute. I want to thank everybody for visiting the show. And I want to mention that, you know, you can also catch my show live at www.talknowradio.net. And real quick, like Anthony, I know you mentioned your Ghost App site. I think it was ghostapps.com. But you didn't mention the UFO Highway site or your Skeptor Radio. I don't know if you're still doing Skeptor Radio. Correct me on the Ghost Apps. I think you just indicated I made a mistake. And you got up another site as well, don't you?
It's ghosthunteraapps.com.
Okay. And you also have what, UFOhighway.com?
Right. UFOhighway.com is for the book, and ghosthunteraapps.com is for the apps.
Okay. Now, do you still have Skeptor Radio?
No, it's not Skeptor, Royce. Scepter. Skeptor. I love that.
Spelling, I just pronounced it the way it looks.
SceptorRadio.com is still there. It's just playing the best of the shows that I've done. Some of my favorite shows. I'm working on something else right now, and that'll be out soon. But I don't want to, it's going to be probably somehow competing with Revolution Radio. So I don't want to, disrespect Mike or anything like that. So I'm not going to mention it here. But Scepter Radio is still there. It's just playing old shows of mine.
And well, okay. What about? Didn't you also have a site for that Leonid project? And I'm probably pronouncing that one wrong.
Leonid Project Leonid. I did, but I took it down after some harassment and stuff, and I don't need that in my life right now. So I was just talking with a friend about it yesterday. So I took it down. I did an interview with Carrie Cassidy. We were being monitored in the hotel by some folks that didn't want us talking about that stuff. So what I did was last August, I got a call from Linda Moulton Howe, who had received a call from a very, very influential person in the field, who worked for over 30 years at McDonnell Douglas Aerospace. And he told her, you need to read this book, because she wasn't interested in my book. Norio tried to give it to her like over 4 years ago. And she called me up and she apologized to me and said that, she read the book and that quite a bit of it correlated to research that she's been doing, working on over the past decade. And she was really sorry that she had not read it when she was asked to. The funny thing is that I sent her a copy of my book when it came out because she's mentioned in the book. So just briefly on the cattle mutilation stuff that she did. It's a Strange Harvest. It was she won a local Emmy for that, so which is pretty important. But anyhow, she contacted me in July, and in July we did a 4-hour interview, which she recorded. Then she edited it, and she went on to Coast, and her and George Norrie played my interview with her and talking about alien-human hybrids and some of these projects that we're working on. And right now, if you go to earthfiles.net, which is Linda's website, one of the things that she demanded of me was evidence of information behind these projects that I'm talking about. So what I did is she was the very first person that I ever shared specific evidence with, specifically congressional budget, congressional budgetary it's a book that the Senate and the Congress get outlined the budgets, the annual budgets for the various military projects and scientific projects and other type of projects. I mean, even infrastructure, things like that.
Black projects.
Well, I showed her the public project, which was the face of a black project, and I gave her all the details, and it blew her away because she says, "Oh my God, it's right there." And I says, "I told you." I says, "But nobody believes me. Nobody wants to pay attention to my research, so screw them." But she paid attention, and I gave it to her. And you can go to earthfiles.net, and you can see the wonderful work that she's doing on it.
Okay, and that was Holmes, right?
Right.
Linda Moulton Howe is what I'm trying to say.
Linda Moulton Howe.
I had a brain fart. I'm sorry.
That's okay. You were saying Sherlock Holmes, but you meant Linda Moulton Howe.
Yeah, exactly. Don't ask me why I did that. I don't have the foggiest clue. It must be one of those days. I tell you what, I got up early yesterday morning at 5:30 to make an early morning VA appointment, and I was up late last night and back up at 7 this morning. Maybe I just lost some rest. I need to catch up. Good at excuses, I can tell you.
Right.
But at any rate, coming back to the subject at hand, before we forget, for Count's question about exactly what does the Ghost app do, now, you got more than one, I know.
Right. There's a lot of different ones out there. I have the GB one, which was extremely popular. If you go to YouTube and you type in GB1, or you type in SCD1, or one of my most popular ones, the GB Rift, all my ghost boxes, there's hundreds of videos on YouTube. And it's just amazing how this thing has taken off. And it's so funny, Royce, because there's people out there that don't understand the technology. You see how when you and I first started talking and I told you about how I put the MP3 files in there so that it'll give the researcher an idea of patterns that are emerging via radio disruption, right?
Right.
So like if you hear a specific sound repeating over and over, that lets you know that a specific radio frequency is being disrupted. Well, I got these guys out there who are like, "Oh my God, I found the MP3 files. I told you it's a fake. There ain't no damn ghost in Anthony's applications. It's a fake." And I'm like, "Okay, thank you for your YouTube video and thank you for the free advertisement. Bye-bye."
Well, actually, when these people come out there and they run their mouths like that, they don't realize that they are giving you advertising free of charge. I mean, it may not be positive advertising, but it is still advertising. And there's a lot of people out there that, rather than take the word of the person that don't know what they're talking about, they hear your name and your product, they'll go check it out.
Right. So I've worked for over 20 years in Silicon Valley for Fortune 500 companies, most of them being semiconductor companies like Intel Corporation, NEC, Hewlett Packard. And I was the first corporate webmaster for 3Com Corporation. That's a pretty damn big deal. I was the first corporate webmaster for 3Com Corporation, and I worked on projects directly with Eric Benjamin, who's the founder of 3Com. And prior to that, I worked at I worked at Netscape. I worked at Acer America Corporation. I mean, I've worked at some pretty damn big places. In addition, now that's all working for the corporate sector. But I've also worked for the public sector. You know, the government. I worked in both private and public sector. So I had a California multiple award schedule for many years, which allowed me to do work with the federal government and the state government. So I have a background in software engineering. I am a software engineer by trade. It's what I do. So when I have these guys that are writing rinky-dink little, apps in Android that, play little snippets of audio randomly that do nothing, that offer no correlation to radio frequencies or anything, slam me. When those guys start to slam me, they literally went to Barnes and Nobles and bought a book on how to write apps for Android, right? So when those guys start to slam me, I just sit back, open up a can of beer, and say, whatever, fuck it, right? I don't have time for those guys.
Okay.
Language. Sorry about the language.
Yeah, I'm in the A studio,
goodness.
which is supposed to be G-rated. The B studio is the one that you can be more lax in.
Right. Oh, sorry. Apologies.
You get me bumped into the B studio.
No, I don't want to do that. But yeah, that's kind of the stuff that I deal with. I just have to remind myself, that that's what I'm up against. And it's when those people start attacking me and their arguments are so mundane, they're so stupid. And I get in these exchanges with them, and I'm looking at my, logical post to theirs, where they're calling my mother this, they're calling my mother that, making fun of me or whatever. Then I realize, okay, why am I even doing this? Why am I even arguing with these guys? I need to focus on my work and just leave it at that. And by doing that, because I have done that, I've absolved myself of all those people. I mean, like I told you, I've kicked off 600 people from my Facebook page who were just enough was enough. And since then, my life's been real peaceful. Been making lots of apps, new app concepts. And these one-trick ponies, I don't need to deal with them anymore. I have so many ideas, so many concepts, and I'm developing them. And people are going to get to use them, and I'm happy with it.
We're going to get you a headstone when you pass away. He's going to read something to the effect of, here lies Anthony Sanchez, who is too busy, got too many irons in the fire to rest in peace.
Oh, my goodness. You're not too far.
You're gonna get your own headstone and have that made to make sure you got it, so you just have people put it up there for you, huh?
Oh, my goodness.
But yeah, you say you was actually doing UFO research. We talked about this earlier on when you actually stumbled upon this here idea. Were there any other ideas out there you accidentally stumbled upon while you were at it besides just for the ghost community?
No, just, that was it. I mean, it was like one of those eureka moments. It's like, wait a minute, these paranormal guys are using ghost boxes. Like, let me tell you about a couple people I know. Andrew Openlander makes the Andes box. Andre Willer makes the Andres box. And prior to those guys was Frank Sumption, who made the Frank's box. Now, I knew about the Frank's box because I got a chance to use one once. And I was really, I was amazed at what this thing was doing. It was just scanning, frequencies. And as a matter of fact, I was with two people from 3AM Paranormal, Rebecca Ann Fox and Joe Mendoza, and we were on the second floor of the Glen Tavern Inn in Santa Paula, which is very haunted. And they were the first ones that actually showed me how to use like a Radio Shack. They call it a Radio Hack, right? It's a Radio Shack hack. It's where they alter the box so that it'll scan frequencies, and so you ask questions, and then you can get direct responses back from the radio. It is the strangest thing. And that's essentially what my apps are doing, but on a PC, a laptop, and a tablet. So Andy and Andre are following in the steps of Frank Sumption, who made the original, the Frank's box. And I actually own an Andy's box, and I'm about to buy an Andre's box. And they're amazing. These guys are absolutely amazing. And that's a whole nother part of the ITC game that is of a critical importance and a very, very necessary to anyone who's serious about researching ITC or paranormal. If you're going to go ghost hunting and you want to make contact or you want to see if there's something affecting the environment, those types of ghost boxes, they're using analog radio technology. My types of ghost boxes, they're apps, they're software. So they're using, solid state technology working with Bluetooth to scan radio frequencies. Not in the exact same way, but pretty close. So there's a lot of aspects to the paranormal that I find very interesting, that I'm a big fan of, and I'm just glad to be a part of it now. People have accepted me. I want to say there are far more people that are positive than there are haters. The haters probably number. I know earlier I was saying it was 50-50, but it's not 50-50. It's more like 95% positive, 5% negative. And that negative 5% is very vocal. They're very hate-filled, and they're just a bad group of people.
And they seem like 50-50 while you're upset with them.
They seem 50-50 when I'm upset and I'm getting bombarded with their emails.
Now, also, Micah is out there listening to us right now, and he tends to agree with you. There are too many people that stick their nose into business that's not theirs. Just thought you might like to know that.
Right. Exactly. And tell Mike, if he's still listening, that I got a lot of respect for him, and it's.
You apologize for the F word.
I apologize for the F bomb, and that was. I thought we was in Studio B. I didn't realize we was in Studio A. But no, this is funny.
Yeah, actually, it really is. I mean, sometimes accidents happen. I had a guy on here I was talking to about Bigfoot one day, and all of a sudden, out of the clear blue, he took me by clear surprise, talking about Bigfoot, seeing Bigfoot's, we don't want to use the word here like he did, but I had to call him down because he just kept repeating the word, in other words.
Oh, I remember that one Bigfoot guy on TV that had the hair. The hair was so beautiful. I can imagine this guy talking about Bigfoot in the same way, but for the other part.
I guess these things, different things impress different people. I'm sure you're familiar with the alien hunter. He lives right here in Houston, Daryl Sims. I had to stop and think about his name.
Right.
The one thing that he actually noticed about the Greys, for instance, was that they had no genitalia, which indicated to him that these were actually probably androids, in other words.
Think about this. John Lear, everybody knows John Lear. His father was inventor of the Learjet, and John Lear is the most heavily decorated pilot in the United States. John Lear refers to Greys as cybernetic organisms, which to him, and to me, means, because I agree with him. But I agree with John based on the information that I received from Colonel X, which literally says these things are creations of the Anunnaki, at least the ones in Dulce are creations of the Anunnaki, and they've been cloning themselves ever since. They don't have genitalia. They're created in the lab. That's actually talked about in UFO Highway. Ad nauseum, as a matter of fact. One of the whole sections in the Dulce interview, the colonel is going on about how these things replicate themselves in a lab. There is no genitalia. It's all scientific based. It's just lab creations. So
my question is, how do these lab created androids get diseases?
Because they're not androids. They're cybernetic could mean that they're part they're biological and cybernetic at the same time. They could have cybernetic areas of their of their body, but not
kind of like
all
the $6 Million Man.
So yeah. Think of it like the $6 Million Man. These are definitely biological organisms, but cybernetic in the sense that they can create, robotic type arms or whatever. It's out there.
Yeah, no, I think the next thing that was noticed about this was something about they didn't appear to eat. In other words.
Right. We talk about that in the book as well. Let's see if I can find it for you real quick. But there's a part where they talk about how the Greys, they synthesize various types of glands from mammals, and they use that as a powder that they later ingest. Let's see here. I know there's a lot of the cattle mutilations, but I wish I knew where it was offhand. But there's There's some strange information going on. There's some strange things happening at Dulce. That I will tell you.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about Dulce. As you know, I've interviewed Norio about Dulce. I've interviewed you. We've talked about Dulce. I interviewed Joan Harris, who she said her husband was actually at Dulce for a while there, I think, if I remember correctly. And he's, according to her, been arrested because he knows too much.
Right. You know, there's a lot of people who are incarcerated currently because of what they know about the Greys.
I mean, there are others, but as you know, over 8 years, I've interviewed hundreds of people. To try to go down that list would take up the whole show.
Right. I think one of the things people need to pay attention to as well is that the information that was provided to me by the colonel, a lot of it correlates the work of Lieutenant Colonel Phil Corso. So, you know, which is important because a lot of people, even Corso's own son came out essentially trying to debunk what his father was saying after he had passed away. And I think that might have been due to pressure, but I think people need to really look into the fact that the correlations are there, the proof is there, down to the detail. If you read, you know, what's in UFO Highway, you'll see that there's a lot of correlation to what Lieutenant Phil Corso was talking about.
Am I mixed up, or didn't a similar phenomenon happen between Jesse Marcel and his son? Didn't his son write a book about Roswell, and then after writing it, turn around and try to debunk what happened with his father, or did I misunderstand something?
I don't know if he tried to debunk him, but I wonder if I think it was like he tried to distance himself from the whole.
Yeah, it might have been he tried to distance him, and I got it mixed up later because, like I say, I go through so much of this that sometimes it's, things get crossed over, transposed, and what have you.
Right. Somebody's texting me and it's pissing me off because everybody knows I'm on the radio. I just turned my phone off. Sorry about that, Mike.
That's what I usually do is turn my phone off during the show.
I just turned it off. I thought it was off already.
Actually, sometimes I forget to.
But, so I'm thinking about doing another conference later this year, and I want to have, a bunch of people in the UFO community come up here to Sacramento, and, it's going to be a UFO paranormal summit just like last time.
You're going to do the Skype and the video like you did last time?
Absolutely. The technology is even better than it was in 2012. So, I spent thousands of dollars, man, on the pro audio equipment from back then, and I'm going to replace it all with even the newer, better stuff that they have out now. So, matter of fact, I just gave my mom and my brother both, gigantic speakers with power amps. They're like, "What's this for?" I'm like, "Plug your damn iPod into it."
I got a great big, huge 55-inch screen TV I can watch it on.
That's good because I plan on having you back again this time. So, we'll have you video conference in. And because I know you got some health considerations, but I still want to have you back. And again, I want to focus on cryptids, ghosts, the Illuminati, the New World Order, UFOs, the alien phenomena, everything like we did last time. Everything.
I wanted to talk about the Illuminati. I think his name is Fritz. Oh God, I had him on my show not long ago.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
You might talk to him.
Right. And, I'm having Carrie Cassidy back, and she's going to make a couple of recommendations. I want to see what she has to say first before I concretely, certify, specific individuals as,
So you're going to refer these folks over to me to have them come on the show and...
Everybody. Every single person that I have, I will send to you and to Revolution Radio. You guys will have them on.
That sounds like a winner to me. That way everybody here at Revolution Radio will know in advance roughly what to expect.
Right. So I don't have any dates, but it's we're looking towards the end of the year, probably. I don't know. I'll let you know, Royce, as soon as I have a date. I already got a venue though, I'm working with them folks on a date. So, and I can make this happen overnight. I got the resources, I have the people, and this is fun. I got a lot of volunteers too, which is a lot of
location.
Yeah, we have a location. Probably going to be at the same place that we had it last time. So, which is. The off of Madison and I-80. They think they changed the name of the place though. So, but the same hotel. Yeah.
Oh, so it's going to be a hotel.
Oh, it's a massive hotel with a huge room. It was huge, man. We had a huge facility last time. So
you going to have George Norrie back?
Probably. I hope so. I would hope to have George Norrie back.
Yeah, I know.
A lot of people give me grief about that. they're like, oh, don't have George Snorri. We don't want to have George Snorri on. It's like, wait a minute, man.
They're actually calling him Snorri now?
Yeah, and it's like George Snorri is so freaking awesome at what he does. He gives people a platform. Even if he doesn't agree with you, he still gives you a chance to air your views and let you talk and not be interrupted. And, it's just, I don't understand. We don't have anybody else like George Snorri out there, really, to think about it. Not on a, where you get to reach 16 million people within 1 week from the live show to time of syndication, within 1 week, 16 million. So, for people to be giving him grief like that, Royce, look, it's like I told you, you got haters everywhere. Doesn't matter.
I would imagine. I've seen some negative
everywhere.
stuff about me out there on the web, too.
Oh, hell no.
Well, I only actually found 2 pages so far, but there are 2 out there.
We're going to have to get the Ghost Hunter Apps Mafia after them people and settle them down.
One of them was when I did an interview with George Tsoukalos, or I'm probably pronouncing it wrong.
Giorgio Tsoukalos, yeah.
Yeah, Tsoukalos, I'm sorry. He's going to get mad at me. I've mispronounced his name before. I do apologize for that, Giorgio. But at any rate, what I was going to say was he had been on my show once before, actually a couple times before, and somebody that's a debunker of ancient astronauts caught the show and wanted to kind of discredit it. And he really was not able to discredit the show or the content of the show. So what he done was try to shoot down me and Giorgio both personally instead. And I was like you. I was like, well, thanks for the free advertising, because I'm sure most people are going to notice that you didn't really mention anything wrong with the content.
Right. No, people give Giorgio a hard time too, and I did too at one point. I kind of got pissed off at the guy. I was taking sides with him in a beef that he had with Scotty Roberts, but that's all old hat. It is what it is, and I even sent an apology to him, and whatever. It's just that's how this field is, man. There's always somebody getting upset with somebody else, and slinging accusations. And, and then people are taking sides because they have friends, and it just gets real nasty. And, I decided this is the year that I decided I'm not doing that anymore. I'm done with the haters, man. It's like, even this guy, the one I was telling you about, the guy with the fake app who really did a number on me and Steve Huff, I don't engage with him anymore. It's over. He can do what he wants.
Well, I can tell everybody listening now, as far as Giorgio Tsoukalos goes, he's about as good a source as any as you're going to find for information on ancient aliens. I've had him on. I happen to know that he's also a protege of Eric von Däniken. Right. So, he's got a lot of first-hand research that he's been in partnership with Eric von Däniken on. Mm-hmm. The man's a wealth of information, and I'd always be welcome to have him on my show at any time. Right.
I was actually speaking on the same stage right next to those two, and the late Philip Copens. I was sitting right next to Philip Copens, and let's see, who was to the right of me? Well, Eric von Däniken and Giorgio Tsoukalos were to the right of me, and those guys were really nice. I met all of them. So they were really nice. And it's, I'm going to give a shout out to Kathleen McGowan, who's really been, a strong individual after the passing of her husband, Philip Copens. And, just hope things are well for her. And I hope things are well for Giorgio Tsoukalos.
Philip's passing really took me by surprise. I had
young.
Gotten a copy of his book that he had just came out with right before he passed away from Warwick. And I was reading it to prepare to, invite him to my show to interview him about it again. Mm-hmm. And he passed away before I got a chance to call him. I'm like, oh my God.
Right, yeah. If you watch that episode on Ancient Aliens, the Eric von Däniken legacy from that season, you'll see me on the stage right next to Philip. And it was a pleasure to I actually had dinner with him and Kathleen and David Weatherly and Nick Redfern. So it was Nick Redfern, David Weatherly, me, Philip Copens, and his wife, and it was so fun. We had such a great time.
Yeah, those are some of the better people in the UFO community. They're like you. They don't want to get around the way my Uncle Raymond used to call it was stay away from the riffraff.
Right.
And let's face it, everybody has riffraff. Christianity has it. Ghost hunting has it. UFO research. Everywhere you look, you're going to find riffraff. They just infiltrate everything in humanity.
Right, yeah. So I'm just... I'm just happy that this is the year I made the decision that I'm not going to engage with anybody on a negative level anymore. I want to just be positive about everybody. There was a time when I hated Mike Ringling, Nighthawk. I was like, I hate that guy. I want to kill him. I want to find him and kick him in the balls. But
he's still listening, right?
Right. But, now, I look at the work that he's done, and I'm like, he's doing a great job, man. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, just kicks butt, and everybody loves it. And I'm not going to, at the time when I had Scepter Radio Network, we were direct competitors. But I'm not a competitor anymore, and I don't really care about getting into it. I'd rather support the guy than fight the guy because he's doing a public service. Just like George Norrie and those guys are giving us a great show, Mike is giving us a great platform for people to speak about anything with regards to the paranormal, ufology, cryptozoology, conspiracies. It's a good place, man. It's a good place to be. So.
Yeah. Well, I got to tell you, I had never ever once heard of Revolution Radio until I got a message over at I think it was Google Plus one day from the communities from Lorene Fenton, who's one of the hosts over here, wanting to know if I was interested in interviews, and
right.
Sure. And I thought that they just wanted me to do an interview for, one show, or probably her show, until she got back with me after I gave her my email address, and I found out that what they meant was they wanted me to do interviews on shows on a weekly basis, that they wanted me to give me a segment over here. But, during the time I've been over here, I've found out that there's some very friendly people. They're outgoing. It's a place, like you said about George Norrie, that they allow everybody to have their view. They're not out there to
right.
censor anybody, in other words. Everybody's free to have their view. Everybody's free to disagree. They just ask that people respect each other, when they're disagreeing.
Right. Right. And I'm very fortunate to be here on the radio with you right now. I'm grateful and I'm thankful. And, same thing when I was on Coast to Coast. The first time I was on Coast to Coast was in 2011. It was when the UFO Highway got really popular and everybody was talking about it. And then this past summer, when Linda Moulton Howe did a special on alien human hybrids, she had me back on. And George was on at the same time too. So I'm really grateful for that, because it brings visibility to the alien UFO phenomena, and it's just something that we need to, and at least my little piece of the world, of the UFO world and the alien world, which is my book UFO Highway. I'm happy to do it. I was actually on. If I go to the website right now, Sean Stone, who is the son of Oliver Stone, the famous director, the Hollywood director, he had me on his show, which is called Buzzsaw, which is a television show for YouTube. And I got so much responses from people on that, and it was just amazing. If you go to UFOhighway.com, you'll see a picture of Sean up there at the top. And if you click on it, you'll see the information there. So there's a good video out there if anybody wants to see some information similar to what we're discussing here, but a little bit more focused on the UFO side rather than just the paranormal. We didn't even talk about the paranormal on that show. We just talked about UFO Highway. And that was a pretty good show. Royce, I recommend you see it.
Well, I got to ask you, is this got any relation to Sylvia Stone, I think it is?
I don't know. It's Sean Stone, who is the son of Oliver Stone. He did the Born on the 4th of July, a bunch of famous movies. And Sean is he's an up-and-coming guy himself, and he was on Jesse Ventura's Conspiracy Theory.
Oh, okay. I've seen all of those.
Remember the young, handsome guy with the leather jacket and the jeans? that's Sean Stone, and the other handsome guy with the business coat on was Tyrell Ventura, Jesse Ventura's son. So the two young guys was Tyrell Ventura and Sean Stone. Both of them with famous fathers, with Oliver Stone and Jesse Ventura, former governor.
Yeah, well, yeah, he is a former now, isn't he? He's now a present conspiracy theorist. Right.
He's a real American hero. I don't want to get into it about this whole Chris Kyle, matter, but it's unfortunately for Chris Kyle, the truth came out that he lied. He was a liar, and he may have been a prolific, one of the most prolific snipers in U.S. history, and he did his job like he was supposed to. But I think he got a little bit too accustomed to the fame that he was receiving, and when the fame started to die down, he made up that story and put it in his book about Ventura. Ventura is not a liar. Ventura is now suffering the consequences because of someone else's lie. That's all I'm going to say on that, because I don't want to get into the whole Chris Kyle thing, because I know a lot of people are very passionate about that, But I'm very passionate, and I'm a huge fan of both Alex Jones and former Governor Jesse Ventura. And if you're going to sit here and call them liars, I'm going to defend them. At least what I know from the perspective of what I know is truth. And I knew for darn sure that Jesse Ventura would never say those things about Navy SEALs in the way that Chris Kyle said he did. Those were bold-faced lies. Yeah, and I'm glad that Opie and Anthony, those two idiots, and their idiot comedian friend, whatever his name is, were out as morons over that whole issue, because they took Chris Kyle's side and they made fun of Ventura and they teased Ventura and they, and now who's the winner in the end of it all? Ventura is. It's like, he took the money of the poor widow, but no, he didn't. He did not take the money of the poor widow of Chris Kyle. In fact, most people don't even know that Chris Kyle and his wife were getting a divorce. Everybody thinks that they were happily married like it shows in the movie. That's propaganda. Those two were getting a divorce. They couldn't even stand each other at the end. And when they went to court over this whole libel issue, Ventura won $1.7 million. You think he got that money? That money went to the lawyers. And if Ventura could have, he would have given that money to the, organizations that benefited the Navy SEALs, which he is a Navy SEAL, and he's a proud member of the U.S. military. Most people don't even know that he's a card-carrying member of the Mongols Motorcycle Club. Did you know that?
I know I didn't.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, but the guy's a badass. He's a real American hero. So for people to denigrate him and say whatever they want, it's wrong.
Now, I was going to mention on Jesse Ventura, I'm kind of with you. I kind of tend to believe that he's not the type that's going to tell a lie. He's really impressed me. And what a lot of people are not aware of, or they may or may not have noticed, that if you go to Facebook, you can see there's a lot of posts on there where Jesse Ventura himself has actually been calling out conservatives and other, official government members, challenging them to make a difference in the world on different, topics, I guess you might say.
Right.
Things that he thinks is wrong, that, he's spoken out for. So he can't change anything any more than you or I can, but he's doing the same thing that everybody can do. He's at least speaking out on it. Right.
I follow his news personality page, and, I look at what he puts out there, and, it's like I said, I've always been a fan of his. He's always been truthful. I don't think there's one person that could find one lie that the man has ever told to the American public. Period.
Well, let me ask you this here. You say you're a fan of Alex Jones. What's the part of you that likes Alex Jones?
What I like about Alex Jones is that he has the guts to say what he believes. And a lot of what he talks about, I believe in. I don't like how, the United States government is handling issues with regards to the Federal Reserve, the fact that we're using money that is based off of nothing, numbers that are generated from algorithms, part of this fractional reserve system from computers. I like the fact that Alex likes to, ask questions like, is there any gold in Fort Knox? Where are the gold reserves? Why wasn't Germany allowed to even see their gold? What is the United States government, who's working in collusion with the Federal Reserve, which has nothing to do with the government? What are they doing with, this supposed? What are we supposed to have? 8,000 something tons of gold in our strategic reserve and our strategic gold reserve, but no one's ever seen it. It's gone. I like how he backs libertarian ideals, because I'm a libertarian. I registered, get this, Royce, I registered as a Republican just so that I could vote for Ron Paul in the primary. Knowing full well that Ron Paul at heart is a libertarian, not a Republican. You think I would be so stupid? That explains
a lot to me, because I wondered how it was that Ron Paul was a Republican, or at least he kept talking like a Republican. Not talking, but he was on the Republican docket as far as I knew. But yet he did not talk like a Republican.
Right, he was on the Republican ticket, but we knew damn well that he was a libertarian. But he was on the Republican ticket because, as an independent or as a libertarian, the mainstream media, which is controlled by the Illuminati, controlled by the government, controlled by the families who own the Federal Reserve, they would never give him a platform to talk to speak on. So And it's so funny. Remember when Ron Paul was running for president, right, in the primaries?
Yep.
He was beating like 3 or 4 of those guys, but they always listed him at the bottom. They always, even though his percentage number was higher than the 3 or 4 bottom primary candidates, they list him at the bottom beneath them. And just, they never gave the guy a chance. Fox Studios, in particular, was absolutely horrible. But MSNBC is also to blame. So is CNN. They're all controlled by the same people. It's just, if it's not Soros, it's
I'm sure you and me could do a 2-hour show alone based on the Rothschilds.
Oh my God! Yeah, don't even get me started, man. The Rothschilds, the Rockefellers. I mean, there's so many Illuminati controlled, but particularly the Rothschilds. With regards to what they're doing in Israel.
Because let's face it, they're at the top of the food chain.
Yep, absolutely.
And then what they say, what rolls downhill.
Right, but anyway, with regards to Alex Jones, that's why I respect him. Yeah, he goes off on these tangents, and he gets a little bit overheated on certain issues. But and I don't agree with him on everything, but I do respect what he does. So, and the things that I do agree with him on.
Yeah, I gotta admit, there were some things that I've seen on him on videos that I didn't very much well approve of. Mm-hmm. But having said that, I'm a firm believer in giving the devil his dues. And there is the fact that he's the one that's not afraid to go out there and stand in a line where they're doing these illegal road stops at, and stand up and challenge people, in the field by himself. In other words,
the first things that made me really like Alex back in the day was the work that he did in the Bohemian Grove, and the Bilderberg, the follow-ups on all these Bilderberg meetings that were happening. He was right out there with the megaphone, and then when he snuck into the Bohemian Grove, right here, not too far from where I live. That was brilliant.
How he managed to get in there unnoticed.
Right. Well, they had to trek to the woods. He wore his little khaki shorts and a nice little collared shirt, and he just jumped into the truck that was for the Hillbillies, which was the Texas delegation of the Bohemian Club.
Oh, there we go, furthering this here hillbilly Texan mentality. I'm a Houstonian now. Don't do that.
Well, the Hillbillies, the Texan delegation, they're all billionaires. So I don't think they like being called the Hillbillies because it doesn't bother them. They're all billionaires. So
I didn't know Texas had any billionaires.
Oh, they got a lot of billionaires there, man.
That was a very interesting point that you made earlier, Anthony, about the not all billionaires being linked to the families.
Right.
I mean, look at Donald Trump. He's a self-made billionaire.
Self-made.
Vince McMahon, he's a self-made billionaire.
Right. But
Bill
Gates,
I think, is also a self-made millionaire, but he's one that's he's standing up for some things that make you think he ought to belong to the rich families.
I think there's actually evidence that the Gates family, because remember, his father was a rich and powerful lawyer as well, might be connected somehow. I don't know. I'd have to look into that. I mean, it's been years since I've looked into the Bill Gates stuff, but with regards to like the Bushes and Obama and the Cheneys, they're all related. Everybody knows that.
Yeah, I've actually read online that Obama and Bush were related, and I don't know where that connection's made at. I have not actually seen the family trees.
It's through Obama's mom. It's actually Bush and Cheney that are related, and it's verifiable. If you go to their genealogical charts, there's a definite connection between Cheney's family. I don't know if it's his mom or dad's side, but one of his sides is related to Obama's mom's side. They're all related, man. There's a 13-year-old girl from Canada a year ago, or maybe 2 years. She might be older. She's obviously older now, but she did a genealogy chart of all the U.S. presidents, showing that they were all connected back to the royal lineage in England and France. And it's so funny. It's like, oh my God, these people are all related to one another. No wonder why we've been stuck in this quagmire,
Well, doesn't that really say something for our voting system up here? I mean, how can, for over 100 years, 95% of all presidents and, high-ranking members of the House all come being voted in by us, yet so many come from rich royal families of England, Just by chance, in other words.
I think it was only one president, Martin Van Buren, who has a Dutch background, who wasn't part of that. He was like the only president who wasn't related to that traceable lineage, which was scary, man. It's very scary when you think that all the other presidents are connected. It's like, wow. Even Obama. It's like, geez Louise.
I think what's happening is there's probably because they're using money to, push campaigns through.
Right. And how much
their campaigns.
Right. And how much hope and how much change have we seen throughout the Obama administration? As far as change, hope is hopeless. The hope, honestly, I believe things have gotten worse on a geopolitical scale. Economically, I don't know if we're better off. I really don't know. But as regards to, where we stand with respect to other countries on the planet, things have not gotten better.
Yeah, we're still kind of at odds. It seems like we've kind of patched things up or gotten, away from wars with some countries, but it seems like we replaced them with different countries.
Well, one of the things that Obama did, so the first thing that happened when Obama came into power is they gave him the Nobel Peace Prize, right? And then exactly, for what? And then within months...
I heard about that. You know what? I had forgotten over the last 8 years that there was something that I saw on the internet saying that they had did that, and I asked at the time the same question, for what?
Right, and it was just because he was the new president. And there was a lot of hope behind his administration. There was going to be a lot of change, if you remember. Well, it didn't happen. And listen, Obama was an idealist. He was a really good, up-and-coming senator. He was working out of Chicago, which was one of the most corrupt political environments in our nation. And he was kicking butt, man. Obama was doing great things. Yes, he was a community organizer, and he was organizing the heck out of those communities. But, he stood for a lot of things, and one of them was for change in the way that the system is operated from the ground up all the way to the executive office. And this was our chance. We were going to have our first African-American president, an idealist, somebody who really convinced us that he was about change. And guess what happened? Remember, there was the whole run-up to the presidency between him and Hillary, essentially. And then those two met in private with the Bilderbergs.
I remember that.
They were on a plane. Obama was supposed to get on the plane, so they shuttled all of the journalists onto the plane, and they shut the doors. And the plane took off, and Obama wasn't on the plane. Obama had taken off and was missing for 2 days with Hillary. And where were they? They were meeting with the Bilderbergs. After that, that's where the Bilderbergs made the decision that where Obama was going to be the president, Hillary was going to be Secretary of State, and it was going to be business as usual for the next 8 years.
If that is the case, though, I would fully expect Hillary to be the next president.
Well, right now, she's in trouble over these emails.
Yeah, I heard about
it.
I'm trying to figure that one out, Anthony. I mean, who cares how many email accounts she has? Well, why is that a big deal?
Because when you're in a high-profile public position where you're working for the government, especially as Secretary of State, you're supposed to only use, because remember, you're accountable to the American citizen at that point, and you're accountable to your peers. So you're supposed to only use the email that is given to you by the government. She would probably be secretary, Hillary at secretaryofstate.gov or whatever, who knows. So but she had her private email server. Look, millions of Americans have private email servers. I used to have a private email server for years. I had SMTP mail server from Microsoft running my show, and then I had another little program from Australia.
So she had her own email server on her computer.
She had a server in her house, which is just a computer. It's all a server is. It's just a computer.
I know that because I use mine for an email server too.
Right. Yeah. So she had hers. She wanted to have, like HillaryClinton.com or whatever. And there's nothing illegal about that. And it's just that it was a bad decision on her choice, because when she was a Secretary of State for the entire country. She should have been using the email that was given to her. It's about disclosure, Royce. It's all about full disclosure. You're not supposed to hide anything. And she didn't she didn't do anything illegal, but what she did do, this is how they found out about it. There was a guy, I don't remember his name, Bonheim or something like that.
John Boheim?
Boheim. They hacked into his email account, and it was there that they discovered, oh, he's having conversations with Hillary Clinton on a non-government server. Her emails were coming from a private server. That's how it was found out. So the emails that they saw, a lot of it was personal stuff, but some of it was, now they don't know if it's classified yet. That's what they're still trying to determine. But some of the emails that she sent were like, such and such from this country did not have a good meeting with such and such from that country. See where I'm going? See where I'm headed with this?
You got to understand also, Anthony, now that you mentioned that, because I was unaware of the contact with John Bonheim, or however you pronounce his last name, that he was the conservative Republican that pitched the big hissy fit that insisted that the government be shut down until Obama agreed to cut everybody's food stamps.
Oh, you're talking about Bonner, John Bonner.
Right.
Right, yeah. No, I'm talking about somebody else. I don't know the guy's name, but I could look it up. Email, I'm going to type it in, hacked, and what was the guy's name? I don't remember the guy's name, but I'll get it for you real quick. Just so it's on record. Because it was actually somebody else whose email was hacked, and through his email, they discovered that she was talking about things that she shouldn't have been mentioning. I think one of them was Benghazi, and that was very controversial because,
if she was talking to somebody else on her personal email about government business, that's
Blumenthal, political advisor Sidney Blumenthal. He was the advisor to her when she was the Secretary of State. And there was a guy named Guccifer, which is a play on Gucci and Lucifer, who was a hacker. And he forwarded all that information to RT, which is Russia Today, which is, the news agency that, is based in Moscow. But it's actually kind of weird because a lot of people like Jesse Ventura and Cenk Uygur from the Young Turks and Anna Kasparian from the Young Turks, they go on to RT and they talk, about stuff and that they could never get away with talking about in the mainstream over here in the United States, like on MSNBC and Fox and CNN.
Well, Anthony, I wanted to warn you real quick, like we got like 5 minutes left, so if you got anything else you want to throw out there, now would be a good time to do it.
Right. I'm going to be doing some research later this year, a couple of places that I plan on going to, secret for now, but I'll come back on your show, Royce, because, matter of fact, I'll come onto your show first, because when you find out where I'm going and what I'm doing with drones, it's going to be crazy, man. So, support me through buying my book at ufohighway.com. Thank you very much. And also support me by buying ghost hunting apps at ghosthunteraapps.com. Ghosthunteraapps.com. You'll find ghost boxes and motion detection software that I've written, a whole bunch of stuff. And thank you so much for having me on, Royce, and it was a pleasure being on your show.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on, and I apologize, like I say, for not having you on more often. Like I say, I tend to get busy, and I don't get to everybody quite as often as I should. And I also want to tell everybody else out there before the music goes off and interrupts me here to come back to see me this coming up Thursday. I'm going to be talking to Gerald Posner about his new book, God's Bankers. And he goes into a lot of detail about the money and the money laundering being done in the Vatican over the last, I'd say 2,000 years or 1,500 years, whatever it was. He goes way back there. Now, originally I'd asked him to come on from 1 to 3, but I talked to his publicist who said he's going to only do 1 hour, so I haven't decided yet who's going to be on the last half of that show. But this sounds like it's going to be a very interesting conversation. You folks are going to probably not want to miss this in here. And if I can find another guest to maybe delve a little further into other parts of the Vatican or the early church to kind of round it off on a similar topic, I'll try to do that, but I'm not making any promises at this point. Now, other than the upcoming conference, do you have anything else new coming up, Anthony?
Very exciting stuff with regards to UFO Highway. They're working to turn it into a feature film right now, but something major happened recently, but I'm not allowed to talk about it just yet. But it's huge. It's huge. So UFO Highway, the book, there's going to be a lot of stuff happening with that. Hopefully, later this year.
Later this year, so I'm going to want to stay in touch with you.
Right.
I want to get down the lowdown before anybody else gets it if I can.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Other than that, folks, as you know, continue to support Revolution Radio and support Talk Now Radio. I mentioned to somebody on the other show that I host that I don't want to mention here because it is competition, that in all actuality, if something was to happen that my computer broke down right now, I couldn't afford to replace the computer, and I'd just disappear offline until such time as I did. So you remember when you support Revolution Radio or Talk Now Radio, you could literally, depending on circumstances, be keeping them live on the air since you don't know what's going on their end. I'm not as big as, say, Revolution Radio is, although I do get around quite a bit. I do operate out of my house. I do broadcast the show on my site from my own laptop every Wednesday night at 7, so that would definitely be discontinued. Even if I did manage to call into this show, if I didn't have a computer on the telephone, I would not be able to get into chat, and y'all like people to watch the chat room. So y'all just kind of remember that it does definitely help, and we do try to bring you some of the best guests. I know that I personally vet all of my guests, and I have a lot of confidence in them, and I try to check them all for, credibility and credentials, and try to get y'all the best quality guests out there you can get, and try to, help educate the public about what's really going on out there. I mean, from what I've been able to discover, and I'm sure Anthony here will tell you the same, the church is not all it's cracked up to be. The government's not all it's cracked up to be. Psychiatry's not either. I'm working on getting a lady coming up in the near future, if I can get a hold of her, that was actually a sales rep for RX Industries, and she's going to talk about, if I get her, how she actually lied for the drug company to get doctors to buy these drugs about the dangers of them, until she had a niece that ended up committing suicide while on these antidepressants and burned herself alive. So there's still more to come. Now, I hear some music coming in on that, so with that, I'm going to say goodbye, folks, and don't forget you can reach me at talknowradio.net, and you can reach Anthony at ufohighway.com. And what was that other website, Anthony?
GhostHunterApps.com. GhostHunterApps.com.
With that, folks, y'all have a good one. We'll see you later.